All right, good morning, good afternoon. My name is Dr. Rami Azuine. I'm the faculty lead here at the Global Health and Education Projects. One of the key things that we do during the Public Health 360 Fellowship is that we work with each of the fellows, drill it down to them, give them the opportunity to really challenge themselves and become very uncomfortable by creating programs. They create an outreach and education program, then they create a capstone project, and we give the world the opportunity to listen, to learn, to be part of this educational festival. So whether you are joining us live from here in Washington, D.C., or you are actually listening to this on YouTube or Facebook much later, we would like to welcome you and we would like to thank you for giving us some part of your time to learn from this public health festival. Today we have two groups presenting. We have group 1 and we have group 2. Once they start, they're going to give themselves the opportunity to share and educate us. They will introduce themselves as well. And then after that, we will have the opportunity to ask them any questions about public health. So thank you so much. On behalf of the team here, Dr. Susan Ekejuba, Dr. Nzube Eboluche, Dr. Chidubem Eboluche, and our tech and outreach guru, Brown Magnus Olivers, I'd like to welcome you to Outreach and Education Public Health 360 Spring 2004. All right, so I'm going to hand over to group number 1 to do the presentation. Brown, if you can give them the opportunity to share their slides.
Group 1, this is for 2024. You can go ahead and share your slide.
Can everybody see my screen?
It's still loading. Okay, that's fine. Okay, go to presentation mode now. Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Is there a delay? Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, wherever you are. On behalf of Group 1, I thank you for coming to our presentation today. Today we will be presenting mental health and stigma. Our team consists of 3 individuals. My name is Maria Jawanji. I'm the project director of this program. I am currently based in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I will let the rest of my team introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Dr. Amna Clark. I'm serving as the clinical director for this project, and I'm joining from Faisalabad, Pakistan.
Hi, I'm Ali He. I'm the Community and Outreach Officer for this program, and I'm joining from San Diego in California.
So today we're going to cover a wide variety of different topics. We're going to talk about some of the learning objectives of our program. What is mental health? Mental health by the numbers, which is some statistics on mental health. What is mental health stigma? The different types of stigma. Stigma by the numbers. Self-stigma prevention strategies. Self-stigma management strategies. And lastly, our activity, followed by the conclusion and a Q&A session. So by the end of this presentation, you will be able to increase self-awareness by recognizing and articulating self-stigmatizing thoughts that contribute to low self-esteem or self-doubt, develop skills for self-compassion by reframing self-criticizing thoughts into positive supporting statements, and strengthen resilience against self-criticism by acquiring techniques to challenge and question the validity of negative thoughts.
So first of all, what is mental health? In 1999, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services defined mental health as a state of successful performance of mental function, which results in productive activities, fulfilled relationships with other people, and the ability to adapt to change and cope with adversity. So these are just a few parameters which you can use to assess your mental health. Next slide, please. So a few terminologies you might use are mental illness and mental disorder. Mental illness itself is an umbrella term for all diagnosable mental disorders, and a mental disorder refers to a specific health condition which may be characterized by alterations in thinking, mood, your behavior, or a combination of these. And oftentimes these manifest themselves in our life in the form of distress or impaired functioning of our daily routine. So in public health, we like to say that there is no health without mental health. And we can see this reflected in the World Health Organization's definition of health, which is, it is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. So this is an acknowledgement of the fact that mental health is a vital part of our well-being. So what do the numbers tell us about mental health? Well, approximately 1 in 8 people globally live with a mental health disorder. The most common disorders are depression and anxiety. Over 280 million people worldwide are suffering from depression. And depression is about 50% more common among women than men. So you can see that there may be certain populations who are more predisposed to mental health disorders. Anxiety affects about 300 million people, and 58 million of these include children. So what do we mean when we talk about mental health stigma? Stigma itself refers to any negative attitude or false beliefs associated with specific traits or health symptoms. In case of mental health stigma, we're talking about stigma or false beliefs which are directed particularly towards people living with mental health disorders. So this can manifest itself, this stigma surrounding mental health, it can manifest in 3 types. First, we have public stigma, which involves negative or discriminatory attitudes that others exhibit towards those living with mental disorders. An example of this would be an employer who is unwilling to hire someone with a history of mental illness. Next slide, please. Then we have structural stigma, which involves policies made by government or private organizations that limit opportunities for people living with mental health conditions. Examples of this would include lower funding for mental illness research or provision of fewer mental health services relative to other forms of healthcare. Lastly, the one that we particularly want to focus on today is self-stigma, which is oftentimes also known as internalized stigma. And this refers to the negative attitudes that people with mental illness may associate with their own condition. An example would be a young student feeling guilty or ashamed for seeing a counselor for their generalized anxiety disorder. So what do the numbers say about stigma surrounding mental health? Well, a review of 144 studies from around the globe found that stigma surrounding mental health conditions remains one of the top reasons people choose to forgo care. And this is reinforced by another study which stated that holding stigmatizing beliefs about mental disorders was related to less active help-seeking behaviors. Those who are most affected by stigma tend to include young people, men, minorities, people in certain professions such as the military, and even those working in health fields. In 2021, in a survey conducted in England, 88% of respondents agreed that discrimination towards people severely affected by mental illness was widespread.
Now, I will introduce some strategies to prevent self-stigma. The first one will be to build self-awareness. We need to understand mental health and symptoms for mental conditions. We also need to acknowledge internal stigmas by recognizing self-judging thoughts towards one's own mental health struggles. The next step would be to build mindfulness and self-reflection. We can practice mindfulness techniques, which can help identify and reduce stigmatizing belief over time. We can also practice using self-reflection exercise like journaling to challenge and replace negative thoughts about mental health. And how do we manage existing self-stigma? The first step to do would be to encourage self-advocacy. We need to learn to normalize discussions about mental health issues by opening up with trust individuals. We can also encourage others to share their experiences, creating a supportive environment to talk about mental health and mental health related issues. The next one would be strengthening support networks. We can establish peer support system to offer safe places for people to talk about mental health. We can also strengthen family support by educating loved ones so they can offer empathy and understanding to the ones of us that are struggling with mental health problems. Now, I will guide you guys through an activity that helps to turn self-stigma into self-compassion, and it's called the reframe and release. Now, I would like to ask everyone to grab a piece of paper and some pen and pencils. The first step will be identify the self-stigmatizing thoughts. Now, you can close your eyes. Adjust the place that you're sitting so you feel comfortable doing it. Now, follow me and take a deep breath. Think about a recent situation where you felt self-critical or stigmatized yourself. When was it? Where was it? What was the situation? And how did the situation make you feel? Bring to mind the specific thoughts or phrase associated with the self-stigmatizing feelings. Did you tell yourself that I'm not good enough? I don't deserve happiness because I have mental illness? I'm dangerous? Now you may open your eyes. Write these thoughts down on a piece of paper. Now we can move on to the next step. The next step would be to challenge the thoughts. Now, imagine you are speaking to a close friend or a loved person who feels the same way about themselves. How would you respond to them? How would you respond to your friends when they tell you that they're not good enough because they have mental illness? Think about any supportive, understanding response you will offer. And then ask yourself, what evidence do I have against the thought? Is my thought rational? Is it fair to judge someone because they have mental illness? And if it's not fair to do that to others, why would that be fair to do that to yourself? And we can move on to the next step. Step 3 would be to reframe with compassion. Now choose one self-compassionate statement that counters the original self-stigmatizing thoughts. For example, replacing I am not good enough to I am enough as I am. Take a deep breath with me. Now, relax your body and place a hand over your heart. And repeat your statement out loud. For example, for mine is, I am enough as I am. We can move forward to the next step. The next step would be to release the thought. Look down at the self-stigmatizing thoughts on your piece of paper. Isn't it harmful? Should we not keep it here in this life anymore? Now you can crumble or tear up that piece of paper and throw it away. How do you feel about it? Do you feel better about yourself? Return to your self-compassionate statements. Repeat them a few times to yourself.
So after this activity, you are now able to identify some self-stigmatizing thoughts, address them with compassion, and overcome low self-esteem and self-doubt. You have turned self-criticism into positive affirmations and created an environment of self-acceptance. You are empowered with the skills to foster resilience and reduce mental health stigma through open dialogue. Thank you for joining us today, and I now open the floor to any questions or any feedback. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was really, really very good. I like the breathing exercises. I liked the opportunity to really introspect about self-criticisms. And I can see questions are pouring in. Actually, people are posting the questions to me. So we're going to really get it going. But before we do that, please join me and let us give this group a rounding hand of applause. Well done. This is good. This is good. Okay. My first question here is the person said, nice work. Nice work. This is really something I learned one or two things. They asked, what is the relationship between self-stigma and imposter syndrome?
I can take that question. So self-stigma, basically, we're talking about someone having stigmatizing, or the stigma is actually, it's a false belief. And that is what imposter syndrome also is. So imposter syndrome, when we talk about that, it means you think you're not good enough for something that you actually are good enough for. You have the skill set. You maybe just don't have the self-esteem or confidence to back it up. And this is something that you can achieve through some of the strategies that we talked to you about, such as self-reflection and journaling. And as you gain more experience, you will begin to feel more assured of yourself, feel more confident in your skills and in your skill set and how to implement them. And that is how, so imposter syndrome is sort of something which feeds into your self-stigma.
Thank you. So this is strange. Okay, so using the reaction button, right, in your Zoom, there is a reaction button, right, where you can indicate yes or no. Can you use your reaction button and tell me, do you personally know somebody with with mental health illness? Thumbs up if you, thumbs down if you don't. Let's see. Because as public health professionals, it's important that we recognize, okay? So, did I see just one person? Yes, okay. Yeah, okay, very good. So based on what you have heard today, what is one thing that you can do to support someone with mental health illness? Use the chat function. What can you do? What can you do to support someone with mental health illness? It could be a colleague, it could be a family member, it could be a friend, it could be a neighbor. Just short phrases, be more understanding, just very short, listen to them. Maria, very good. Sometimes many people just need an ear. Yep. Hear them out. Hadasha, thank you so much. Yes, hear them out. Listening is therapeutic. Debbie, give the opportunity to speak up. Tell him or her that he or she is the best. Very good. Giving them the opportunity to for positive reinforcement. Good. Okay. So another question here says, safe space. Thank you, Amna. Says, can you speak, you said about normalizing discussions about mental health illness. Can you speak more about that, please?
I can take that one.
Yes.
I think it's important to speak about normalizing mental illnesses because a lot of people suffer from it, and it's way more people than we think. And if we kind of break down those barriers and just start talking about what's going on, we kind of eliminate those barriers. And we're often expected to seem a certain way when we're actually feeling something else. And if we just vocalize what we're feeling and what it's doing to us, maybe we can just help foster like an environment where everyone can talk about it as well.
And I would like to add to that actually for my MPH, well, not my MPH, but through the university, an extension is we can do a volunteer, some volunteer work, which requires us to work with K to 12 students. So something that our professor who was training us told us was that if, as you can see in our project that we just did, there wasn't like an age limit or a specific population that we mentioned that you can target this activity to. It was a very step-by-step thing, so it can be done with people. And what they told us was that if a child is old enough to ask you, why am I feeling sad all the time? Then that child is old enough to understand the reason and hear your feedback about how they can feel better. So maybe you can use the vocabulary that the child can understand, but it's not, maybe classically we have some stigma about this, that we don't want to talk to children about mental health problems. But if that child is experiencing conditions or experiencing circumstances which may be affecting their mental health, then that is an important enough conversation to have.
Very good. So another question here, how can you speak on the impact of culture on self-stigma? It looks like some of you are from different cultures. Can you speak about the influence of culture on self-stigmatizing based on your cultures? This is very interesting. So we have different cultures in the group, so we can actually let all of you react because you guys are fantastically from different cultures. So who wants to go first? Maria, do you want to start? And then we go to Amna, and then we go to Ellie.
Yes, I can start. So I was just going to say that it all can also tie back into different social norms between cultures. And like when a culture discourages open discussion about mental health issues, certain people may feel pressure to hide their experiences, which reinforces self-stigma by pretty much isolating people from their own support networks that they have or would have relied on.
Ellie.
I grew up in a East Asian culture, and I think in our society, self-stigma is basically a very negative thing, and it's a kind of almost a taboo to have mental illness because having mental illness is associated with weakness. For example, depression means that you are just not strong enough as a person, and having anxiety might means that you are not patient enough as a person. So a lot of time, people in my culture confuse the terms of having mental illness versus having negative emotions. And I think this is very bad because people who have actual mental illness struggles are afraid to speak up and to also to seek medical help because they think they are not gonna be accepted and they are gonna be viewed as the weakened ones in the society, and they the stigmas that got projected to them will become internalized, hence that will turn into self-stigmas. And I think it's just bad. And I can't say much about the specific types of stigmas, self-stigmas in other cultures, but I think they equally lead to very destructive self-thoughts and negative impacts on our mental health.
Thank you so much, Ellie, for sharing. Amna.
Yeah, so similarly, I have grown up in an Asian environment, and there's a lot of public stigma, which maybe is something that we're battling more so. But I think self-stigma is oftentimes something that goes unrecognized. And I am someone who has struggled with anxiety and depression since high school and throughout medical school myself. So there are particular days, even now, although I have actively sought care for that and I have been supported by my family in that case, but there are particular days when there are maybe certain stressors that come out of nowhere and they can tend to like really instigate those self-stigmatizing thoughts. So, and the only thing like I have found that is helpful is similar to the way that we exercise today. You have to work on replacing those things with compassion and utilizing one of the techniques that we showed you, that what kind of words would you use for if your friend came to you with the same problem, and why wouldn't you apply that same kindness to yourself? And so that I think is something that no matter which culture you're from, what the cultural context is, these techniques can work for you.
Thank you so much, Amna, for that sharing. Fantastic. And I can speak about also the African culture. I know there are also other people that share the African culture. Mental health illness is a taboo in Africa. When somebody experiences mental health illness, there are allusions that the person is either possessed by evil, by demon, demonic influences, or that the person may have been, something may have been done, by the relatives, people who didn't wish good for that person. So there is totally a huge misunderstanding about mental health illness. There is a number of people in Africa who may have mental health illness that manifest in different ways. They do not seek care because people will say, oh, they are being pursued by a spirit that is asking them to worship them. Therefore, people do not actually let them have access to care. And then a number of people, rather than seeking care and understanding the relationship between spirituality, religion, and health, sometimes think that you do not need to seek help, just like you seek help for hypertension, and then some people will just resort to what they think are some spiritual or traditional medical ways. So I think the negative perception of mental health among Africa is also one of the reasons why even those who struggle with mental health illness do not seek care. On the systemic level, there are a limited number of professionals working in mental health in Africa because it's not recognized, right? There are universities that train psychologists, but those psychologists end up not even getting any positions because nobody seeks them, unlike it is in in developed countries. So we all, as public health experts, can be advocates, right? We can create safe spaces. We can give opportunities to hear individuals experiencing different mental health issues, understanding that there is a physiological definition, physiological manifestation, physiological cause of mental health illness. It's not spiritual, it's not evil, it's not demonic, it's not ancestral, because your ancestors are chasing you. That's the reason why the person is experiencing mental health problem. So we have a comment here. Thank you so much. You say, hello, everyone. Maybe someone can explain this thing of constantly feeling inadequate. Is it a sign of mental health issue? And how can one overcome the feeling? Really important discussion, right? When somebody feels inadequate, you receive accolade, you say, oh, I'm not worthy of that. You get a position, you always second guessing yourself. So I'm not supposed to be the person heading this place, right? So what does that really mean? Can somebody help one of our attendees explain this phenomenon of constantly feeling inadequate? Is it a sign of mental health issue? And how can one overcome it? And the answer will not be limited to the group, but we're going to ask the group to start, and then any other individual in the community can also provide some thoughts. Let's start with the group. Amna.
Yes, so I can take it. I would say it can be. The thing is that different mental health conditions can manifest in different ways. And having a very specific symptom, it does not always guarantee that you have a mental health disorder, but it does suggest that this is something, if this is something you're constantly feeling, this is something that is out of the norm for you. This is not how you always feel. Then this is something that you need to look out for. It's the same as if someone comes up to you and says, I have a fever. Well, that person doesn't have a fever all the time. So your advice to them would be to seek help, to seek out someone who can help them. So someone who knows what to do in that situation. So this is similar because mental health is related to our nervous system, and the brain is just another organ in our body. So that means you just need to seek specific health targeting that certain part of your body. It's not something to be think about that this is something I should be afraid to share, or this is something that I shouldn't address. I would suggest, if this is how you feel, talk to someone that you can really trust with this information. And this is someone who trusts you and loves you back. They will know how to help you get out of that situation.
Maria.
Yeah, I second everything Amna just said. Feeling inadequate from time to time is normal, but like she said, sometimes it can just come, it can also just manifest into other things as well. So like Amna said, reaching out to somebody you love, talking to them about it, seeing if it's impacting your day-to-day life, maybe seek some professional advice. Yeah. I'm gonna hit the main points.
Ellie, anything to add?
Yes, I would just add one more small point, which I think is beneficial to acknowledge how much difficulties that you are going through and give yourself more credits towards the difficulties, because a lot of time people who have mental health struggles think that they are having this because because they're weak and cannot handle the problems properly. But as Amna mentioned, mental illness has some neurological reasoning behind it, and is sometimes beyond one's free will to control, and hence it's more important to acknowledge what you're going through so that you can kind of fight with it better.
Excellent points. Another question here from one of our audience members. Good day, everyone. How can public health professionals collaborate with healthcare providers to improve outcomes?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question again?
Yes, I'm happy to. So the question was, how can we as public health professionals collaborate with healthcare providers to improve outcomes in, with people with mental health illness?
Okay, so I'm guessing that when you're talking about healthcare providers, are you referring to like clinical settings specifically?
Clinical people, nurses, nurse practitioners, medical doctors,
Yes.
physician assistants, those who look at things from a clinical perspective versus us, public health professionals who look at issues from a population-based approach. How can we collaborate?
So, my advice would be, because I'm someone who was trained to be in a clinical setting, but I chose public health, and that's why I'm studying public health now. So my work experience has been in teaching undergraduate medical students. And that means that our university or our college is associated with a teaching hospital. And I see this in my day-to-day life, that tends to be like a very grave dissection and disconnect between these two things, which doesn't need to be there. And collaborating between those would involve collaborating on the issues that you just mentioned. So if you're in a position, talk to the people who are the leadership, who are the board members maybe, and even on organizations, institutes and healthcare facilities, their board members might be people who have people in their family who are experiencing a mental health disorder. They might be running an organization. For example, there are lots of nonprofit organizations who have board members and trustees involved with these organizations. Use that as sort of a stepping stone or a starting point to talk to them that we want to carry out maybe health education activities or performable activities, and we want to educate your community. Another good thing is to involve, if there is someone, I don't know, maybe, but this is something I've seen oftentimes in like LMIC settings, especially, that if you have political backup, you can easily take that collaboration or that activity through to the end. That really helps to get the information that you want to get out there. So healthcare providers shouldn't be, because the thing is, they are very saturated in their clinical environment, but they are people who immediately will understand all the things that you're talking about because they already have that knowledge. They just are implementing it in a way that is different to what you're implementing, and they are carrying out the treatment. As public health professionals, we tend to carry out the prevention. And we need to show them the benefit that if we are preventing, then we are helping you to lower the burden that you are experiencing through your resources and in the disease outcomes. So we will show them that their interest lies with you. You are going to help them achieve the outcomes that they want to achieve, and that can help as lay the foundation for that collaboration that you want to do.
Thank you so much. Anything to add, Ellie or Maria?
Yeah, I can take over this one. I mean, obviously, promoting mental health issues is a very complex topic, and it has a lot of layers that you can pursue things. And you can do it from the community's angle by having more workshops and community outreach events like this to raise awareness and help people address this kind of issues. And you can also go through the the governmental angle through policies. For example, you can talk to the governors to increase funds that is distributed on mental health awareness and promotion. And you can also push them to build out some laws to prohibit the discriminations against people who have mental health in workplace or in healthcare and things like that. So yeah, there are a lot of ways to do these things. And I just want to emphasize that there is like a long way to go, and it's a complicated issues that cannot be solved in one day.
Well said, right? The most important thing is that this presentation has really helped us today to realize what each and every one of us can do to become allies, how we can create safe spaces, how we can give opportunities to hear people out, how we can also understand and become advocates, leveraging a population-based approach to ensure that our colleagues, our friends, our family members who are experiencing mental health issues, at any level, are feeling and receiving the support that they want. So please join me. Let's thank Group 1 once again. Perfect. Okay, hold on there. We are now moving to Group number 2, right? Group number 2 is going to be talking about something that is really hot off the press, something that impacts the global community. And so I know this is going to be a lot of questions again. So please hang tight, hold tight, get your pen, get your questions ready as I hand over to Group number 2. Take it over.
Okay.
Who's sharing?
I'll be doing the share. Okay. 1 minute.
You can see your screen.
Okay.
1 minute.
Hello, everyone. My name is Deborah Daniel. I'm calling in from Houston, Texas, the United States of America. I'm the clinical director of my team, and we are here to present an outreach program on social media use and responsible technology among teens ages 13 to 17. I'll let the rest of my group members introduce themselves.
Hello, everyone. I'm George Shomki, the project director of the Community Outreach Program.
George, where are you
I'm
joining
calling
from, George?
Yes, I'm joining from Cyprus, especially in Nicosia.
My name is Hadassah Cortez Luciano. I am the Director of Monitoring and Evaluation, and I'm calling from Nashville, Tennessee.
Hi, my name is Mary Shaw. I am the Director in Outreach of Communications, and I'm calling in from Richmond, Virginia.
We're here to talk about the dangers of social media use among teens ages 13 to 17. In this presentation, we will discuss the problems of social media use, both negative and positive, the dangers, and then the responsible use of social media. And we will carry out an activity at the end. Next slide, please. Our objective is that at the end of this presentation, you'll be able to learn and increase your knowledge and awareness of the dangers of social media use, improve your mental health and well-being, and enhance your digital literacy and critical thinking on social media usage. Also, teens will be able to reduce incidents of cyberbullying and online harassment. The main goal is to create an awareness on the dangers of social media use among children and adolescents.
So, what's the problem? According to the US Surgeon General, up to 95% of youth people aged between 13 to 17 report using social media platform. That's nearly every teenager you know. More than a third saying that they use social media among like almost constantly, meaning that there's a large population who use social media day to day. Data demonstrate that social media pose a risk to harm the mental health and well-being of children and adolescents. So the social media usage by numbers. 90% of teens aged between 13 to 17 in the US use social media. 75% of children aged between 8 to 12 have at least one active social media account. The average screen time on social media for adolescents is over 3 hours per day, meaning that it's about 1,000 hours a year, close to 1.1 and a half months continuously, about 45 days. So if your child spend 3 hours per day in social media, it's about 45 days he would have spent in a year. And also 45% of teens say they feel overwhelmed by the drama on social media.
What are
Yeah.
Apologies. Um, what are the positive impacts that social media have on your teen? According to the US Surgeon General, social media can help children and adolescents to build positive community and connection with others, access for important information and self-expression, form and maintain friendships, and connect with a diverse peer group. Additionally, from the positive impacts already mentioned, it can be included that it facilitates education in terms of access for important information. It also gives older teenagers the chance to look for job opportunities. Not that I'm a teenager, but I am a person that is always looking for job opportunities through social media platforms such as LinkedIn. And believe it or not, other social media platforms such as Facebook and Instagram have access to job opportunities. Positive impacts within social media platforms can also serve as a buffering effect on stress, meaning that positive event can act as a buffer. Like, for example, when I say that one of the positive impacts is the connection with a diverse peer group, this connection can help in youth that are often marginalized, such as racial, ethnic, sexual, and gender minorities. Next slide, please. And of course, the same way there are good impacts, there are also bad ones. Hence why I'm going to be talking about the negative impacts. The negative impact of social media on the mental health of children and adolescents include mental health determinants, emotional disorders, behavioral disorders, as well as eating disorders, psychosis, suicide and self-harm, and risk-taking behaviors. We can also consider as a negative impact the waste of time due to all the distractions they can encounter, affecting at the same time study habits and work. Next slide.
So, how can you manage the dangers of social media use? So, as a parent, what can you do? You can build an environment for your children where they feel more comfortable discussing any experiences without a feeling of judgment or punishment. You can also emphasize the importance of consent and monitoring of social media platforms and activities, which goes into the next point about you have to set time boundaries on being active online to encourage your children to engage in other activities like sports, hobbies, and more outdoor activities. Next slide. So for schools, we can provide educational workshops for the target population, which is children and adolescents. You can also provide counseling services for teens with a mental health disorder or illness that is caused by social media by that toll. You can also educate teens on online safety skills, such as being able to recognize scams, not sharing any personal information, and other dangers. Next slide. So for policymakers, we can also fund awareness and education and support programs at local, state, and national levels. And we can implement an efficient support system for people with mental health problems. And that goes into the next point, where that is the suicide and crisis lifeline, to encourage those to be able to talk to someone that they love, and if it ever comes to that low toll or point, to contact the line. Next slide.
As a parent seeking guidance, you can teach your kid responsible use of social media methods, like how to use social media in a good way, such as when interacting with other peers, be yourself and be nice. Prior to using social media platforms, perform an assessment in terms of teaching them to be aware and to avoid harmful content. Think before you post within social media platforms. As a parent, help your child to understand privacy. Lastly, you can teach your kids setting time limits and taking breaks when using social media. This one specifically, I consider it to be very important since they can repeat the behavior for when becoming adults. Next slide, please. Other methods to practice responsible technology use are related to the screen time and age appropriate. It is understandable that as a parent, you will want to set specific hours on screen, but there is not enough evidence that confirms that setting specific screen limitations are beneficial. Therefore, the American Academy Pediatrics Media Use Recommendation Guidelines were updated in 2016. The AAP guidelines suggest that setting screen time does not apply to all children and teens due to their many different kinds of interactions with technology. They recommend to consider the quality of interactions with digital media and not just the quantity or amount of time. AAP also recommends to support them in ways to strengthen their social, emotional, cognitive, and identity development. When it comes to house rules around technology use, there is evidence that rules focusing on content, co-viewing, and communication are associated with better well-being outcomes than rules focused on screen time. Remember also that as a parent, that the child is never too young for a screen time plan, and that it's possible to perform responsible use of social media through proper guidance and consistency. Next slide, please. Additionally, responsible use of social media includes the social media platform themselves. Therefore, parents, you are not alone. And how you may ask yourself, well, some social media platforms are able to detect when a user is underage. For example, platforms such as TikTok and Meta have video scanning. Instagram and Facebook, older users can report accounts if they detect the current user is underage. And Discord and Google can verify the user age by requiring governmental ID or by the user recording themselves. Next slide, please.
We're going to take some actionable exercise so we could, as parents, teach our youths at home how to distress, get off the stress of social media. I would want us to all stand up because this exercise will be carried out in a standing position. Okay, we will take a deep breath with your mouth closed. Take a deep breath and hold it for 5 minutes, for 5 seconds rather. Let go with your mouth open. One more time, take a deep breath Let go. One more time, the last time. Take a deep breath. Let go. Good. We can be seated. Thank you. So this is one of the ways that children or youths could debrief from social media stress. There are other ways like getting off the screen and playing on Scrabbles or crossword puzzles. I do hope, we do hope that with this presentation, parents will be able to help the youths from the dangers of social media. Thank you very much. We're open to questions.
So, for the conclusion part, as a society, we should champion a safe, supportive social media and online environment by emphasizing on awareness as a key. Social media offer both connection and risks, especially for teens' mental health. So, as explained earlier, social media present positive and negative impact depending on how it is used. Also, empowering safe usage. With the support from parents, school, and policymakers, we can guide the teen to use social media responsibly. Also, moving forward, by fostering a balanced approach, we can create a safer, healthier, and online environment for the next generation. It's a collective effort, so we should work together as one to promote safe and healthy environment. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much. This is great. So this is a very important and current issue. The Surgeon General in the United States just released a report, in the last few weeks about social media use among young people. So I've received tons of questions here, so we're going to get to those questions. But first of all, join me. Let us give Group 2 a round of applause. All right. Georges, can you stop sharing so that we can see people's face and take the question?
Okay, sorry, 1 minute.
Okay. So we're going to take the first question. The questions are pouring in. Keep them coming in. So the first one is, does social media use have any effect on the ears and the eyes of our population? Right? So the group is going to be the primary answer, but we're going to throw it open to every other person because we are all impacted by social media. So Group 2, right? Does social media use have any effect on the eyes and on the ears of young population? Yes, Debbie, go.
Yes, obviously. I'll talk about how it affects the eyes first. There is a radiation that comes from the equipment used, be it a cell phone or a computer, desktop, laptop, whatever it is. There is a radiation. And if the child keeps staring into that screen for a long time, it is affecting not just the iris, the cornea of the eyes as well. So it's a matter of time before those two parts of the eyes shut down. Because the light rays that comes from that equipment goes straight into both the iris and the cornea, then into the brain. So yes, there is a negative impact of constant use of social media to the eyes. And then to the eardrums, it is even worse. First of all, sometimes they want to listen to music and not even realizing that the volume of their earpods was loud. We have had 2 instances within a space of about 9 months of children brought into the clinic with a blown up eardrum. And unfortunately, we know as clinicians that when the eardrum is bad, is bad. So that is just a very common one. Then some of them come complaining of a muffling sound in their ears, even when they are not on social media, they're not on the cell phone, they're not on the laptop, they're just running around in their house, they're hearing a muffling sound constantly in their ears. It is because of repetitive use of social media, and then the earpods plugged into their ears. So yes, it can be damaging to the ears and to the eyes.
Wow. Anything to add, Hadasha, Merit, or Georges?
I would like to add one point. So not only what we see on social media affects like our eyes and our ears physically, but it also can play like a role with how we see reality. Like for an example, on social media, you're looking at people all around the world, their lifestyle, how they look, and more. And then sometimes like we compare ourselves to our people and it alters our perception of reality. And this is where mental health can also play a role because it's like if I don't look a certain way, if I don't live this lifestyle a certain way, then I'm not any good. So it alters like our perception.
Excellent. Next question. So we have a very important question here. So I'm going to read it out and then I will summarize. So the person says, well, there have been a lot of online abuse cases as a result of unregulated access to social media. As a matter of course, studies show that children as young as 11 years bump into adult materials on social media. What can we do about this? What can parents do about this? Really important question. Hadasha, we start with you and then we go to Debbie.
Even though the presentation is targeted to the ages from 13 to 17, as a parent, you should not be letting your 11-year-old going into social media platforms. That is why a lot of these social media platforms have like I was saying earlier, like Discord and Google, that they can ask for their identity through government IDs, which these kids obviously won't have it. So the parents are not alone. The social media platforms would also aid on this, but as a parent, I will say no access at this age to 11 years old.
Debbie.
Yes, more or less the same thing. Parental control is very important. For every electronic media at home, parents should put in the parental control where the child cannot just jump into it when mom or dad is not aware. And from time to time, this may not sound palatable. As a parent, I bump into my child's room and tell her, drop that phone, don't touch it, because I need to see the websites they go to. I do that from time to time until they got to the age of past 18. So I would recommend that. Take them unawares, no shoes, they don't know you are coming, and you tell them, don't touch, don't click that mouse. Leave it right where it is. And we go. They code. We know that these youngsters, they're good in coding. I'll see you tomorrow. They can make ILT, whatever. As a parent, go the extra mile, learn this code. Try to join their age mates to learn these codes. It's for the interest of our youths.
Very good. Those are practical roles on what you can do. So the next question we have here is, issue around fake accounts, right? So when it comes to avoiding fake accounts and potential social media hackers, what are some of the social media digital literacy tips or practices that parents can teach their children? Merit.
Hi. The type of practices that they can teach their children, like when it comes to like these let's just call them these dangers. I would say so when your child first goes into social media, monitoring is already like an essential skill that you should have. Learn the platform, learn how the specific social media that your child is using, learn how that works. And then once you come to an understanding of how it works, then you just basically watch over your child and then tell them, hey, like when so and so happens, this is what you should do. So it basically starts off with learning what they're getting into first, and then sitting down with your child and being like, hey, this is what you should do if A, B, or C happens.
Hadasha, anything to add?
I can add something, obviously.
Okay,
So,
Joe.
yeah, what I think about it is that for me, open communication is very important. So, parents should have communication with their child about online safety, setting boundary, and how it's important to avoid certain content and also certain profile. So, what they can do is like to explain risk, like to reach out to no contact, like identify red flag, like for example for fake account or to avoid scam. Also, like to build a strong profile, like to use unique password so they cannot be scammed by anyone because when you get into creating an account, you will be asking to build a strong password to avoid scam. Yes, so that's what I think. Having open communication, discuss the content, and also monitor the child on social media very important to avoid those danger.
All right, we have another question. We're gonna keep it moving. The question says, two questions, so I'm gonna break them down. The first one is there any of the social media platform that is good for children?
Yes, I do think that there are certain social media that might be good for children. So if we go over, like we have presented a slide there, like by classification, like there are social media who have a net positive impact and negative impact on children. Like you can see, like the safer social media account might be like we have YouTube, we have Twitter, then Facebook, Snapchat, and Instagram. So we can see that social media like Instagram is actually one of one of the social media where the child will be more at risk to face such danger like scam or having access to content that they are not supposed to have. So I think that there are certain social media that are safer than others. Yeah.
Hadasha, anything to add, given your research with the American Academy of Pediatrics recommendations?
Sorry, I was going to mention something else before I go to the American Pediatrics. Social media platforms that are good for teens. Recently, Instagram created an account specifically for teens. And I'm going to quote what they were saying. They were introducing Instagram team accounts to reassure parents that teens are having safe experiences with built-in protections on automatically. So that is a good option for teens as a social media platform. Going back to the Can you repeat your question with the AAP? Sorry.
So the question was, is there any social media that is good for children? Because during the presentation, you talked about AAP saying quality over quantity, right? And then AAP saying also social media for learning. So there could be legitimate use of social media by children, but which one do you recommend, and what could those circumstances be?
Oh, well, I will be recommending at this, like the one that I mentioned, the Instagram related to teens, created for teens. That will be the one that I will be recommending, since even in combination with parents and the social media platform itself, they are protecting the teenagers. So I will consider that one.
Anything to add, Debbie, Merritt, Georges?
What I would ask, we know that technology move faster. So, anytime, I think that even though we have safe account, safe use of technology for children, I still believe that parents have the responsibility to monitor the social media use, because uh, each day there are scammers who build new strategy in order to have access to those vulnerable people on social media. So it's very important for parents to monitor those and avoid those kind of danger for their children. Yeah.
So Amna in the chat put in that Sesame Street is one, right? Account on social media is one that could be very helpful. So we're going to conclude with this question. And I'm going to open this question up to everybody, whether you are the group, whether you are attendee. Can the society truly control social media use by young people?
I can speak on this one. I think realistically, possibly not, but I think if we raise enough awareness, then it will go somewhere. Like for an example, by raising awareness, this can include, let's say, webinars, workshops, and these workshops can take place in public areas where children are like present. It can be sport clubs, it can be school, and etc. So I don't know, like realistically, yes, society, they can't really control the amount of time like children go towards social media, but they can also raise awareness where individuals will think to themselves, am I going through the right path? Like, do I have control or do I not have control?
Thank you. Debbie?
Yes, the society can, as they control every other thing they can, like what my partner Merritt said, awareness, but it should begin from home. When parents start giving their babies, 2-year-olds, cell phone to play with, they already introducing these kids to social media. And then when they turn 10, mama's trying to take it away. No, you taught him. So parents, if the society will control it, it has to start from the cradle, which is the home. Yes, it can. If we let them know that until they attain certain age, they shouldn't play with social media, they will stay away. But if we introduce them at an early age, then we can't take it away from them. I have seen a lot of youth these days who say, oh no, I shut down from Facebook. I'm no more on social media. And I'm talking about people 15. I say, why? They said, oh, my friend almost killed himself because they said he was too fat. And I'm fat. I said, so you shut down? I said, no, I don't do Facebook. I don't do anything anymore. On their own, this is awareness that Merritt is talking about. So yes, the society can, but it has to begin from home.
That's very powerful. And, one of our alumni, Kayode, put in the chat, that is a difficult thing to do. However, families and societies can partner to raise the levels of dangers associated with social media use. So well said. So well said. Yes, Georges.
So I also want to add another point. As mentioned earlier, you have to know that in the early age, if children are introduced to social media, it might also develop what we call an addiction. So, like, children will start developing constant need to check in, to connect. Nowadays, we see many people who will say, I will do a challenge like 1 hour without, or 1 day, or 1 month without connecting to social media because it tends to reduce the productivity, it build addiction. So it's a very important matter to be addressed, the addiction part of social media. So it has to be a collective effort between policymaker, parents, yeah, IT, even IT company like Google, Facebook, Instagram, working together in order to promote a better environment to protect their children. So that's what I think. It's
Thank you
not out
so
of
much.
reach. It has to be a collective effort. Yeah.
Right. And that's similar to a comment here that Brown put in, Debbie addressed, which is how can we prevent children from crying? You know, when we give them tablet, iPad, and this, and then we take it away from them and they start crying. What I say, babysitting using social media, right? Have we seen kids that are in trailers and then they have iPad, right? Why you so iPad is pretty much babysitting. So any concluding comments, any collaboration between families and public health practitioners on how we can improve and how we can save the next generation of children from dangers of social media. Concluding remarks.
So what I can say about how we can work together like policymakers, parents, to build a safe environment for social media use will be, for an example, like we spoke about many danger like addiction and other factor. Like you just mentioned, like for the child who constantly crying because he cannot get out of the social media because it already started developing an addiction for social media use. So what we can do at this point is like the parent have to develop other activity in which children will enjoy doing that will make them less likely to need or to have that excitement over social media use.
Thank you. So we have one final comment in the chat there. Social media have resulted in unhealthy competition among teens. Most of them want to copy and paste the lifestyle of their peers. When things don't add up, mental health issues start streaming in, right? So what is the way forward? What should parents really allow their teens access to social media platform? I think we have answered that. The power is in the hands of the parents, but the power is also in our hands as public health practitioners. There is a lot of evidence in the report that the US Surgeon General issued demonstrating a direct link with mental health illness with social media use among children. So creating awareness, developing activities that parents can do, that guardians can do, relatives can do, uncles, aunties, right? We are a community that bring up children. So we shouldn't leave these only to those parents. We can also, as a community, support the healthy development of all of these children. So on that note, join me again and let us congratulate Group 2 for an excellent presentation. This was good. So I believe we have been educated today, right, on the dangers of social media. So as a parent, as an aunt, as an uncle, do not say you were not told. You have heard the information today. The power of information is using the information to make a change. And then for mental health illness, right? Self-stigma, we can all be allies to individuals with mental health illness, understanding, giving them hearing ear, providing safe space, giving them the opportunities, and helping them address imposter syndrome, which all of us do have, actually, especially minorities. We do have imposter syndrome, where we have a false belief about ourselves. Things that we are very good at, we think that we are not good at it. Positions that we merit, we think that somebody must have made a mistake. That's why they gave us that position, right? Roles that we have played, awards that we receive, we think, oh my God, we are not enough. Really beginning personally, within the family, within friends, and creating allies. We all can be allies, and we all can support healthy mental health development for each and every one of us, regardless of race, sexual orientation, gender, religion, or nationality. So on behalf of the faculty of Public Health 360, I would like to thank each and every one of you for attending. I would like to thank our 2 group teams that have done phenomenal work. And I would also thank you, if you are watching this on YouTube or on Facebook, for really taking the time to watch this program. So looking forward again to seeing you during the graduation and capstone project presentation by the 2 groups. Thank you so much. I remain Dr. Rami Azuine from Washington, D.C. Thank you.